It is a Thanksgiving weekend as opposed to other weekends, and we go out to the left coast of the United States, wherein we find Michael Snyder and his movie reviews. Hello, Michael.
Well, hello, Alex, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. No matter what part of the weekend you hear this on, it's still Thanksgiving in our hearts. And, we've got a pretty interesting roster of films to get into, so we should probably jump in with both feet. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Moana is a beauty of a film, continuing the high quality of the recent Disney-branded computer-animated movies overseen by Pixar honcho turned head of all Disney and Pixar animated movies, John Lasseter. They're on a streak, actually, with Zootopia, Big Hero 6, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, and Tangled. The Disney side of things is giving Pixar more than a run for its money. I mean, as great as Inside Out was, Finding Dory was just okay. Monsters University was a retread. Brave was weak sauce. Man, The Good Dinosaur from Pixar was pretty awful. And I looked at a trailer for Cars 3, and I could hardly keep my breakfast down. Anyway, Moana makes the grade. In essence, it's a Pacific Islands fable set long, long ago, and it's all about a young Polynesian princess named Moana who wants to reclaim seafaring for her fellow islanders who are experiencing an eco-crisis. Nothing is growing on their island. They're going to be screwed because they're island-bound since giving up the ocean. As a result of the crisis, she sets off on a voyage against the wishes of her dad, who is the island's tribal leader, and on this voyage encounters a chastised, shape-shifting demigod named Maui. And this creature decides he wants his full powers back as much as Moana wants to find a way to restore the natural health of her home island and bring back the glories of sailing and exploring to her people. So it's a quest. It's the heroine's journey, if you will. Along the way, she gets a companion. I have to say, Dwayne Johnson as Maui is fantastic. There are wonderful songs in this movie, a handful of them, not a lot of them. And the young girl or young lady who plays Moana, Oli Cravalho, I think is her name. She's pretty wonderful too, beautiful singing voice. And this is the reunion of the filmmaking team, Ron Clements and John Musker, who did The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and The Princess and the Frog. So you're in good hands here. The music, by the way, is by Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame. And he teams up with a couple of people, but the music is pretty wonderful. Everything about this is first rate, and I think this is an ideal family film. It's got a great message. It doesn't hit you over the head with it. There's action, adventure, and man, they've animated the ocean. They made it a creature of its own. They've given it a little anthropomorphism. I thought Moana was pretty damn wonderful. Anyway, let's move on. Allied is a World War II period drama about the wartime relationship between a military intelligence officer and a female French resistance fighter. And this thing goes from mission behind enemy lines to a life continued between the two of them in London and all of the trappings of that sort of circumstance. Brad Pitt and Marianne Cotillard are the two stars in this movie. Robert Zemeckis directed it. That's Robert Zemeckis of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, and other pretty well-known, now considered classic films. Support from Jared Harris, Lizzie Kaplan, and Matthew Good. Lizzie Kaplan, who I loved in Masters of Sex and various other things she's done, is not given very much to do. Jared Harris, also a familiar face in a small role. This is all about Max, this Canadian intelligence officer played by Pitt, and Marianne, who is the French resistance fighter, and their relationship. It's 1942 North Africa, where the Nazis are in charge, and the couple are seeking to undermine Germany's control in the area. And, there's friction between the two, so things are going to get to the period romance that seems destined. Initially, it may feel more like a spy thriller, but no, it's lovey-dovey. This is not bad, but it's fluff masquerading as a great wartime love story with a few twists. The initial setting of World War II Casablanca is kind of a cheat. I mean, it invites comparisons to one of the great movies in cinema history, and trust me, this is not. This is more Casablanca than Casablanca. On the other hand, Pitt and Cotillard work well together. There's a lot of chemistry, and the settings and art direction are eye-catching. At one point, they have to go to a Nazi headquarters in Casablanca. It's a big white building with swastika banners on it. I couldn't help but think of the results of the recent presidential election. Anyway, Allied is an okay diversion, but I'd like to see its two leads team for something that's less of an echo of past Hollywood glories and more something new and challenging for them. Now for the first true disappointment of this weekend's selection, Bad Santa 2. This is the long-awaited sequel to Terry Zwigoff's hilarious and profane holiday movie starring Billy Bob Thornton as the alcoholic thief who is the worst department store Santa in the world. This movie co-stars Kathy Bates, and we have the voluptuous Christina Hendricks as the love interest, so to speak. So it's set 13 years after the events of Bad Santa, and con man Willie Soak, played by Thornton, is still a bastard and a drunk, but he's no longer working as a department store Santa to rip off those stores in the holiday season. He's out of work in Phoenix, so when his pissed-off longtime partner, the one who plays Santa's elf, the backstabbing, oversexed little person Marcus, shows up in Phoenix with a way to make a big score from a charity in Chicago, Willie takes the bait. And that means leaving behind the same chubby, optimistic orphan kid Thurman from the first movie, who even though he's over 20, he's now still following Willie like a puppy dog. And Willie, of course, can't help but abuse him. In Chicago, we meet Willie's mother, played by Kathy Bates, and we learn in large part why Willie is such a piece of work. And you can replace work with another word if you like. This is gratuitous in its vulgarity. Yeah. It's not anywhere near as funny and fresh and profane as the original Bad Santa, which may have been lightning in a bottle. Maybe the shock value is worn off after a decade's passing. Maybe the script is just not anywhere near the first one. Although it's kind of amazing to watch Bates and Academy Award honoree Octavia Spencer debase themselves in this film, and the latter playing a hooker in a brief scene. We've come to expect the sort of stuff from Thornton, but, wow, Bates and Spencer.
Let me ask you a question. Did Zwigoff direct this?
He did not direct this. Terry Zwigoff did not direct it. I mean, Tony Cox is back as Marcus. Brett Kelly is back and big as Thurman.
But Zwigoff was the inspiration in the whole film.
Right.
His direction and his writing and so on, his sense of cartoon,
Yes. My God. So right, Alex. You're so right. Mark Waters directed this, and I'm not, he just doesn't do things as sophisticated or as clever as Zwigoff, and I think that was a problem, and the script was, I don't know. I will say that I had high hopes. And I loved Bad Santa. I thought it was one of the funniest films I'd ever seen. Really,
we may have even seen it together. I love that film.
Oh my God, it's so wonderful. Well, somehow this is worse Santa, and that's bad, and that's the bad kind of bad, not the good kind of bad. I wish it was better. It still might be worth a few chuckles. I laughed 3 or 4 times, but All right, Rules Don't Apply is the return of Warren Beatty to writing, directing, and starring in a Hollywood movie. And this is a 1958 period piece about an aspiring actress and a chauffeur and their relationship with billionaire Howard Hughes, played in meh fashion by Warren Beatty. And man, talk about cast. You've got in small roles Alec Baldwin, Annette Bening, Candice Bergen, Matthew Broderick, Dabney Coleman, Steve Coogan has a brief role in this thing. Ed Harris, Oliver Platt, Martin Sheen. Wow, you're thinking this is going to be great. Rules Don't Apply. Should have been great. I wanted it to be great, but no cigar. The young actress is played by Phil Collins' daughter, she of the big eyebrows, Lily Collins, and the chauffeur and assistant to Hughes is played by Alden Ehrenreich, who I think is playing the young Han Solo in the upcoming Star Wars prequel. And they have to deal with the craziness and unpredictability of this billionaire. They work for him, and they got to do whatever he says. So, she's the small town beauty queen and wants to be in the movies, and he's a guy who wants to become a real estate magnate, and so they've got to buy their time. And, of course, there's an attraction there. And one of the biggest rules for employees of Hughes is no fraternization, particularly not the men with the young actresses he's chosen to mentor. So you got that tension here and there. I just wanted it to be great, and it just wasn't. I kept thinking of The Aviator, the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio playing Hughes, and it's such a better film. And I guess this wanted to be sort of a wacky screwball comedy look at it, and there's a few period things I liked, but ultimately this was very disappointing to me. Rules don't apply, but how about the rule of, giving us a great film? No. All right, a film I loved unequivocally, Lion. It's a docudrama about a kid, and it's biographical, and it's all, it's one of those things, if you made this story up, no one would believe it. Okay, so it's a true story. Its protagonist, Saru Brierley, this is so crazy. He lived in a very poor rural area of India, and at 5 years old, he and his older brother go off on a brief sojourn to make a little money. They have a single mom who works in a gravel pit, so they go off, and the kids become separated. And the 5-year-old gets on a train and ends up hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from where he lives, doesn't know how to come back, doesn't know how to pronounce the town where he's from, ends up lost in Calcutta, and eventually he's picked up by local authorities and adopted, much to his great luck, by an Australian couple, brought to Australia where he grows up but always has a feeling that something's missing in his life. The suburban couple is played by Nicole Kidman and David Wenham. The grown-up version of Saru is played by Dev Patel. His girlfriend in the Australian sequences, as he's a young man, played by Rooney Mara. Everyone's wonderful. And this kid, this unaffected Indian kid named Sunny Pawar, plays the young version of Saru. The Lion was just incredibly moving. 25 years after he's adopted, this completely assimilated kid decides he's got to find his roots, rediscover where he's from and his mom, and he uses Google Maps to try to trace it down. It's, again, a true story. I found it inspiring, profoundly moving, and Patel is taking on a part that echoes his first high-profile screen lead in Slumdog Millionaire, but this gives him a more complex set of challenges to navigate as he portrays this young man torn between two cultures. And the little boy, again, is wonderful. And Kidman is particularly fine, playing against type as a middle-class wife and mother. And she never overplays it, but these people have boundless love for one another in a very trying situation, and it's a very beautiful film. It is directed by a gentleman by the name of Garth Davis, who comes, I think, from Australian television, written by Luke Davies, and big thumbs up for Lion. Let's wrap it up with Miss Sloane, which is a smart and nasty little movie about a woman who is a unbelievably successful lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Elizabeth Sloane is played by Jessica Chastain in a fantastic performance where she is being cornered by the politicians that she's been manipulating, and her life is basically going to be torn apart because her enemies have taken it on to basically ruin her for all the things that she's done to them. So Miss Sloane feels like the right movie for the right time in the wake of this ugly, country-rending election. And it's a fantastic, measured performance by Jessica Chastain, and we get an inside look at the horrific things that lobbyists and government weasels and inside jobbers are doing to one another and to us. And we also see the lawyers that defend them when things go south. Good supporting work from Mark Strong, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Allison Pill, Jake Lacey, Sam Waterston, and John Lithgow is one of those senators who's got his own set of secrets and is cornered into actually going after Miss Sloane. And I thought this was a really terrific film and grown-up film, a sophisticated film, and a movie worth checking out. That's it for me on the movie side. Anything on TV, buddy?
Yeah, I have finished binge watching what I think is the obvious Emmy winner in every category that it could be nominated for next year. I mean, just an absolutely amazing, amazing program. 10 episodes. Netflix, once again, somehow knocks it out of the park. The Crown is amazing. Just amazing. And you mentioned...
This is the...
Yeah, what?
Sorry.
You mentioned...
this is...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We're stepping over. This is the thing about Elizabeth II, right?
Yeah. It is amazing. Yeah. I thought it was going to be dull. I watched the first episode. I went, so I kept watching it. And I'm telling you, every performance is top-notch, especially John Lithgow, who plays Churchill. in what is a tour de force performance. It is, of all the things I've binge watched, the easiest binge watch I've ever done. I mean, it was like potato chips. It is beautifully done. Matt Smith finally has shed his Doctor Who persona and has proved himself to be a really great actor. And I can't remember who plays Elizabeth now. I forget her name. She was in Wolf's, what was it, Wolf's Hall or whatever the name of that show was?
Wolf Hall.
Wolf Hall.
She is a very talented young actress, a British actress who's getting a whole lot of serious coverage. And she's her name is Claire Foy.
Yeah, that's it.
She does this role from the 40s to now, and eventually they're going to do a second season for sure. And Matt Smith, just for the record, plays Prince Philip, and I think it's so funny that his former co-star on Doctor Who has played Queen Victoria and is coming back for a second season, and he is playing Philip in The Crown.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful to know that. And by the way, this is the work of Peter Morgan, the man behind such movies as The Queen. And so he's very familiar with British royalty, and I agree. This is a terrific.
Have you
series.
watched it?
I have.
Yeah, I mean the ninth episode is basically about Winston Churchill, and it is just stunning. I mean, the acting by Lithgow and the script writing, the whole thing. I was amazed. I can't tell people enough to watch this thing. It may not appeal to you on thinking about what it's about, but it's about her, but it's also about all the people around her and the drama surrounding her. Her sister, Winston Churchill, Anthony Eden. It's really just spectacular. So
I do get the feeling that Morgan also researched this thoroughly. I mean, thoroughly.
Yeah, and
great.
Obviously, they can keep doing sequels for quite a while. They're going to probably have to find new actresses to play the lead role so she can age. But
the intent is to bring it to modern day, and we'll see how they do it. But in the meantime, that's a great recommendation for the Thanksgiving weekend. People can dip into that on Netflix.
Yeah, and it's not difficult to watch, folks. I'm telling you, of all the things you've ever binge watched, there's not a dull episode in the bunch. And you would think because Queen Elizabeth is kind of dull, So to make her exciting was, and to make the life that she's led exciting and interesting was really made it a tour de force. Anyway, that's it, I guess.
Let's wrap it up, and we'll be back, I guess, hopefully next week at some point. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster, and we can invite you to join us on the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook, or you can do what you should do, which is tune into GABNet.
Okay, and happy Thanksgiving to you, Michael, and to everybody else, and I hope they have something to watch this weekend. Thank you, and we'll see you all up the road, I guess. How am I going to end this? Oh, yeah. Stay tuned for more GABNet.